Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's football, NFL football. We've had college football the last 10 days, 2 weeks. Now it's time for the main course. Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles tonight on Thursday Night Football. The NFL is here, and we got to celebrate. Steve Kim is here to help me talk about the National Football League and our kickoff game. And look, I'm excited. It's first game, but I got to be honest. I'm a bit more excited about tomorrow, Chiefs and Chargers. I wish that was the game that started this all off. Cowboys are kind of trash, and so I don't expect much from them against the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe they'll rally up and try to prove they're more than Micah Parsons, and maybe there'll be some addition by subtraction. But I'll get into that here in a second with Steve Kim. But we got other things we'll talk about. RedZone is having commercials. Is it ESPN's fault? Is it the NFL's fault? Has RedZone been having commercials previously? Steve Kim is a RedZone guy. I like to watch full games. I like to go multi-screen and have 3 or 4 games up at the same time. I got to see the full content. I've never been a RedZone guy. Just watching people in the red zone and getting the highlights, that's for casuals, in my opinion. I'm sure Steve would disagree. Maybe I don't have ADD or ADHD or whatever it's called. But anyway, we'll talk about that. Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel seem to be at war. And Bill Belichick seems to be at war with the New England Patriots. He's barred, according to reports, he's barred their scouts and coaches from North Carolina. And Vrabel took a little shot at Belichick that I thought was interesting. We'll talk about that. Michael Irvin is still talking about stabbing a former teammate that came out or that was discussed in that recent Cowboys documentary on Netflix, America's Team. We'll check back in on that, Steve Kim and I. Pablo Torre has a report out about the Los Angeles Clippers and whether they cut some corners to get Kawhi Leonard. Mark Cuban has weighed in and said, nope, Pablo, you're making a molehill into a mountain. Steve and I will talk about that. I've got a take. I'm going to go do some reminiscing or what I got a take on this whole Kansas-Missouri football is back this weekend. The border war. They call it the border showdown now. It's still the border war. It is the greatest rivalry in all of sports. Yes, I just said that, in all of sports. If you're the greatest rivalry in college sports, that makes it greater than any rivalry in professional sports. No? Can I say that? I mean, what's a better rivalry than Kansas-Missouri, the border war, particularly in football, but in basketball too? And they ended this thing when Mizzou in 2011 went to the SEC. They ended the greatest rivalry in all of sports, and it's back this weekend. I want to talk about it. I lived right on that Kansas-Missouri line for nearly 2 decades. Well, if you count my mother living there, but even before me, I got damn near 30 years invested in the Kansas-Missouri rivalry, and I want to talk about it, and we'll talk about it with TJ Moe. And I'm sure some Ohio State, Michigan, Duke, North Carolina. No, does not compare to Kansas, Missouri. And this isn't me being a homer. I will explain during the show. We'll end the show with me doing a little bit of As the WNBA Turns and my prediction that Angel Reese would become a problem for the Chicago Sky and be looking to exit the Chicago Sky. The going's gotten tough, and guess who wants to get going? Angel Reese. She's a quitter. So I'll get to that at the end of the show. It's going to be a fantastic show. I mean, you got the National Football League kicking off at 7:20 Central Time. Let me do the math. Can I do the math on that? That's 2 plus 7. It's about 9 hours away, if my math is correct. Is my math correct? Nine? Is that? Yeah, 7:20. You carry the 1. And yeah, I got to take my shoes off. Anyway, I think it's 9 hours away. And the NFL is kicking off, so we'll get there. I need to quit babbling. Hey, if you're listening over Apple, I really, 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 really need you to hit that 5-star review on Apple right now. It's how we grow the channel. We're having some success on Apple. We need more success on Apple, and I need you to hit that 5-star review. I need you to write a little review, tell everybody how great we are, how great I am. Tell them how bad I am. But we need it to do it. Thank you so much. And before I'm done with the thank yous, let me thank our friends at Relief Factor. You guys know about this little packet and the power of this packet. I've been talking about it. I hope some of you guys have tried it. I hope some of you guys have done the 3-week quick start and are using Relief Factor to relieve your inflammation and joint pain. Pain comes from inflammation. Relief Factor is, they got these 4 little pills in each one of these packets, and these 4 little pills fight inflammation. And they relieve that pain that you're feeling after workouts, before workouts, some of that pain that's stopping you from doing the things that you love to do, long walks with your wife, with your girlfriend, with your kids. Oh, I can't go out and roughhouse with my grandson or son or daughter or whatever, my dog, whatever, because I got too much inflammation. Take Relief Factor, like me, and about 1 million other Americans. We all started out the same way. We did a little 3-week quick start because that's how long it takes to figure out if this supplement, if Relief Factor, actually works for you. And for about 70% of the people, it works. And they circle back and re-up for the full deal. The quick start's only $20 or $19.95. It's actually less than $20. And you can find out if Relief Factor is right for you and if it will relieve some of that joint pain. I'm more active than I've ever been, probably since college, and I say that sincerely. Between all the working out I do, you've heard me talk, and dang it, I was supposed to, Jeffrey Steele and I were supposed to go to dinner last night, and I forgot. But you guys have heard me talk about Jeffrey Steele, the legendary songwriter here in Nashville, good friend of mine. He's 63 years old. The guy bikes 30 miles every single morning. It's because he takes Relief Factor. He's in great shape. You can do the same thing. Try Relief Factor. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Thank you, Relief Factor. And thank you, Steve Kim. I'm doing a little Patrick Mahomes, Dylan Raiola, little quarterback hand signal. Bring Steve Kim into the picture. When I do this, this means bring Steve Kim into the picture because we're going to be talking some NFL football. Cowboys-Eagles tonight. I actually think the Cowboys are going to have a chip on their shoulder. I think the Cowboys are going to cape up for Jerry Jones, and I think they're going to make this a game for longer than people anticipate. On paper, the Eagles should just wipe the floor with them, but I think this game goes into the fourth quarter, and then the Eagles wipe the floor with them. But I think we're going to see a good emotional effort from the Dallas Cowboys to try to prove something that they're caping up for Jerry Jones. He's taken a lot of heat this offseason. Steve, your thoughts?
First of all, I'm stunned that we're not talking about the WNBA on this momentous occasion. I happen to agree with you because you can make an argument. The Cowboys' run defense is greatly improved from, 7 days ago? But, yeah, look, a lot of these early season games, they don't play preseason games as much as they do 3, and they basically give them 2 weeks off. A lot of these games can be a mirage. Eagles are still very good. The Cowboys are not bad. I just think, again, when you're the America's team, there's always these outsized expectations of having to make a Super Bowl. There's this pressure to beat the clock from Jerry Jones, right? But I'm with you. For 2.5, 3 quarters, I believe the Cowboys will be in this game. But it's in Philadelphia, right? Got to go with the Eagles.
Yeah.
I just think they're such a well-built, sound team.
I was watching ESPN this morning, and they were talking about Nick Sirianni and the Eagles and their mindset that, there's a trophy ceremony, a banner ceremony tonight, and the Eagles aren't going to participate in it. They're all business. They want to put last season behind them. They don't want to be called the defending champions. They're dead set on repeating, and I could see this. Sirianni, the coach, is certainly the leader of it, but I also see it as Jalen Hurts. It's the only way he could get his full respect. If they go back to back with Jalen Hurts, I think people are going to have to quit putting an asterisk by him when they talk about the great quarterbacks in this league. And so I think this back-to-back thing is most important for Jalen Hurts in terms of where he wants to be seen and how he wants to be seen as a leader and a quarterback in the NFL.
Jason, I agree, because if you look at his style of play and what they do, I get the sense he'll never throw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards. He'll probably never have 40 touchdown passes, right? And that's how we judge a lot of quarterbacks. But I think Jalen Hurts is underrated in this respect. He's the only guy that can run that system that well for Philadelphia with what he does, with his athleticism and how tough he is, the tush push. It turns out not everyone can do it. But if we're going to define quarterbacks by winning, which we did for many years, because Jason, off the top of your head, can you tell me who the top 10 quarterbacks are in terms of passing yards and touchdowns? We really can't. No, a quarterback, it is about winning. And we have to be fair about this. And I'm not making a comparison to Brady, but Brady's first couple of Super Bowls, wasn't he thought of as a game manager? That it was really Bill Belichick in his defense?
Yeah, I think for the first 2 or 3 Super Bowls, that was the case. Look, they got Randy Moss, and Brady went to another level, or 2007, whatever year that was, where he went to the next level. But I think you make a fair point, because to me, Tom Brady is, and I know he's earned it through accomplishment, but he's not the greatest quarterback to ever play in the National Football League.
Agreed.
And I think Jalen Hurts wants to go down that path. That's the same path Jalen Hurts. He's never going to be the most talented guy, but he can be the guy that brings intangibles and leadership intangibles and his running ability, particularly the tush push and all of that, and just consistent emotionally. That's his way to climb up the great quarterback mountain, is just through consistent winning. Same path Tom Brady took. And again, I consider John Elway the greatest quarterback to play in the NFL. It's nearly impossible to get me off that. If I were drafting quarterbacks for just one season, there's other quarterbacks I would take ahead of Tom Brady beyond John Elway. But if I wanted a dynasty or take a quarterback for a career, that's when Brady enters the conversation, and that's when Jalen Hurts perhaps enters the conversation.
Right, and Jalen Hurts, some of the stuff that he does, Jason, is underrated. His threat at the mesh point, he really accentuates the run game because he could pull the ball. And look, he's not Lamar Jackson athleticism, but he's good enough. Look, everyone knows that Saquon Barkley was the MVP of the league, probably the best player of the league. But what he does is aided by a quarterback that actually can pull the ball. And by the way, Jason, I want to admit a mistake, unlike Coach Prime. I know Saquon Barkley was a free agent. He did not get traded. See, Jason, we here at Fearless, we admit our mistakes.
Hold on. You inadvertently said he got traded?
On a couple of my last appearance, I said that he got traded within the division, and a couple of people said, Steve.
Yeah.
So, that was my clock management. Look, Jason, nobody's perfect. Tony Gwynn even popped out. Michael Jordan once missed a dunk. It happens, okay? But here, again, the lesson that you taught all of us, and look, we're not like Coach Prime. We admit our mistakes here on Fearless.
No problem with that mistake. I didn't even catch it in real time when you said it, but you jogged my memory, and I do remember it. But other thought as it relates to the Eagles is Saquon Barkley, as you mentioned, I believe was probably robbed of the MVP trophy last year. He was the most valuable player. Can he do it again? Can
Yes.
he have an 1,800-yard, 2,000-yard season and get the MVP?
If health stands up, and that has been an issue, but Jason, he's an explosive athlete. He's one of the rare athletes in the National Football League. It pops out. In a league full of great athletes, he just looks a half step more explosive than everybody. And look, the Eagles lost some of their defensive depth up front. Howie Roseman had to make some difficult decisions. But look at that offense. They returned most of the offensive line, right? They still have A.J. Brown, maybe the most underrated great wide receiver in the game. You have Devontae Smith, who's still a speedster, plays his role well. You have Jalen Hurts, who does his thing. Most of the parts offensively are there in place. I don't see Saquon Barkley having a decline at this stage of his life.
Is there any pressure at all on the Dallas Cowboys? There's always pressure on Jerry Jones. He made a very mundane hire at head coach in Brian Schottenheimer. He let Micah Parsons go, got in a dispute with his agent. Is there any pressure on the Dallas players? Obviously,
Yes.
there's pressure on Jerry Jones. Oh, on who?
On that whole organization, just the way they are, America's team. I mean, Jason, they literally are the biggest story in football at least half of the year, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. No one's indifferent towards them. But I tell you a specific player that has to live up to his contract, Dak. What do great quarterbacks truly do, Jason? They make your team greater than the sum of the parts, right? They kind of patch it together, piece it together. And you may not be a perfect team, but that guy has an ability not to just game manage, but to once in a while elevate the whole franchise, right? So you take a 10-win team, you make him into a 12-win team. Look, Dak's been solid, okay? He hasn't been bad, hasn't been terrible, but I don't think he's ever been highest paid player in the league good either. If there's ever a year he's going to have a career year, and he's had some good ones, where he pieces it together and elevates it, it has to be this one.
There's no pressure on Dak until January. No.
Right. Okay.
Because we've seen him, he came in second in the MVP voting, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. And so nothing for Dak matters until they get to the postseason. He could stink up the joint all regular season, win a couple of postseason games, and salvage himself. But there's also a lot of people that don't see the Cowboys as a playoff team.
Yeah.
Missing the playoffs would probably, they'd have to be looking to exit the Dak Prescott deal.
Jason, when they had those double-digit seasons under Mike McCarthy, for the most part, what I recall, they were expected to make the playoffs, right? So as Chris Rock would say, you did what you're supposed to. So they kind of did it, and they had a dud against Green Bay. This year, most of the prognostication is this is an 8 or 9 win team who's supposed to be a third-place team in the NFC East. So I think that's a little bit different. We got to put some context on it. When Dak made the playoffs, he was supposed to, with that classic squad they had, a lot of talent. Then they just blew up in January. This year, the expectations are they're going to be a very mediocre club.
Yeah, I definitely going to be. It's going to be a struggle, but I kind of think I like Dallas in this position. They may be a surprising story. We shall see. Steve, I don't know. I can't know if I can get to the bottom of this red zone situation in terms of commercials. Is this brand new? I'm hearing some people say, no, they did this last year a little bit. You watch. I don't watch red zone. Let's watch, I believe, Scott Hansen here. Scott Hansen here and reveal that Red Zone will have commercials. He did this on the Pat McAfee show. Play the clip.
Can you give us a preview of what it's going to sound like on Sunday there? Yeah. I'm going to close my eyes.
Oh, man. Let me, before I do it, can I just say one thing? When it comes, I'm the host of the show.
What if I said no?
Right?
What if I would have said no right there? You said, can I say one thing?
I'd run through the stop sign. The business folks handle the business.
Of course.
And I have no say over different elements that could or could not be in the show.
Okay.
And so I'll just tell you right now, when you see me come on the air here, we're going to hit the Octo Box. We've got 8 games in the early window, taking you around all the different cities. And then when we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, it's been more than 250 days since the first full NFL Sunday, but we are back. And 7 hours of Red Zone football starts now.
Wow. Well said.
I realize that might be a slight change to some of you, but that's what the catchphrase will be going forward.
We all understand what the NFL is, okay? We all understand what the NFL is. As soon as we heard it's in 50 million homes and everybody's watching it, we knew immediately that there was going to be commercials dropped in there. Now, they already started doing commercials with the LRAPs. You know, they already started sliding those in now.
True.
You guys were saying commercial-free football, and I saw a fucking Lowe's ad on my screen as you were doing that. I'm like, we're certainly getting money from commercial stuff, though. Boom. Bang!
Yeah.
Shout out. That's exactly what it would do, you know? And then now actual commercials.
Steve, where do you come down on this? You're the Red Zone guy. I like full games.
Well, yeah. You know, once in a while there's a game that's good enough or big enough, I will watch a game. But I'll be honest, the way they did the ads, and you've seen it where, hey, this segment is brought to you by, and they'll have a graphic, right? So is that really a commercial or is that an advertisement? I do think, again, how do we define that? But Jason, in all my years of watching the Red Zone, it's been about at least a decade, I don't actually find those overlays to be all that intrusive. There's a natural flow. I have a question. So when Scott Hansen says, all right, we'll be back after these messages, are they talking about 30 seconds worth of commercials? Are they talking about a minute? Or are they talking about a full 2.5, 3 minutes? Because now that would disrupt the flow. Jason, I'm not naive about this. Everything's a business. They're in this to make money. They're not doing this for our good or for our edification. They got to monetize this. I get it. I can actually take 30 seconds to a minute and they come right back. But if it starts to become a few minutes, Jason, I think it would greatly impact the experience, for me at least, very negatively.
Andrew Marchand, who I think now is with the Athletic / New York Times, he used to be with the New York Post, covers sports media pretty thoroughly, tweeted out, he put out a clarifying tweet. ESPN has nothing to do if Red Zone has commercials or not. The NFL decides on it and still runs it. Richard Dice, who I can't remember who Richard Dice works for now, maybe he works for the Athletic too, he put out an update from the NFL. The plan is to space a limited number of ads throughout the 7+ hours of the show, double box ads. Viewers will hear the audio of the ads, but the other box will show the NFL Red Zone. This move has been contemplated and tested for over a year now and is completely unrelated to the recent news regarding the ESPN and the NFL.
Okay.
Your thoughts on that?
I like that. If that's the compromise and I could still see on one of the boxes, I'm fine. Honestly, Jason, there used to be a debate among boxing fans that if we are paying for a streaming service like The Zone, and certain fans had an issue with them saying, well, wait a minute, like HBO, when we paid HBO subscription and we watched a fight, there was never a commercial. Why are we paying for this and during a fight, instead of going to the corner, you're playing an ad? I can kind of see it, but Jason, let's be honest. The NFL Red Zone package is basically part of a la carte. You're not really paying for an NFL Red Zone subscription by itself. I think it's a little bit different. But Jason, if that's the compromise that they have and I can still watch the Red Zone through a continuum, honestly, I don't have that much of an issue with this.
I want to move on to Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. There seems to be a feud heating up between these two. And I actually want to start with Mike Vrabel, who said something I think interesting on Monday or Tuesday. He's on WEEI in Boston, and they kind of asked him a question about Belichick's start, and instead of taking the high road or saying something positive, Vrabel took a little shot at Bill Belichick, and I was like, man, that's interesting. Wow, Vrabel, played for Bill Belichick. He's a Patriot guy. He's now the Patriots head coach. Who authorized him to heat things up between himself and Bill Belichick? Let's start with this. Let's play the Mike Vrabel talking about Urban Meyer and what a hot start he had at Ohio State, comparing it to Bill Belichick.
Did you watch the UNC TCU game last night?
Probably maybe a few snaps. That's all the.
You saw the best part.
First half. Maybe just the end of the first half.
First drive was first drive was
Thing of
fire.
beauty.
Yeah, it was a thing of beauty.
If they would have ended the game after the first drive, would have been good.
You seem to be excited about that.
No. I listen. I'm rooting for the guy, and I think you coached in college. It takes a while, don't you think, to get a program going? Come in there like that.
I don't know. Urban Meyer won 12 of the first 12 games at Ohio State, so it didn't take him long. That's my experience in college football.
All right. Okay. So we have the comp.
But isn't it like I
think I can only imagine the landscape of college football now, and hey, who are you? Oh, I just came from wherever, and
right?
I'm sure it's probably not as easy outside of the top few programs.
Right. Ohio State guys have to take a pay cut when they get to the NFL.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully.
But isn't that
it's called put it on the budget line for winning?
Yeah,
right there.
But isn't that the difficult thing that obviously Bill's going to have to navigate through? I know when you.
I don't know what he's going to have to navigate. I've got plenty to navigate here.
Man, that was icy. I was like, wow. A former Belichick player, current Patriots coach. I thought things were all good between these guys. Clearly, it's not. And I saw that on Tuesday and thought, man, Belichick must be a worse guy than what I ever imagined for Vrabel to be taking this kind of a shot. And now, for the rest of the story, here's John Middlecoff saying that Bill Belichick has barred Patriot scouts and coaches from the North Carolina facility. Play the clip.
Well, Belichick hasn't been very accommodating. And I was told by multiple people that he has banned the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots, if you're a scout for the New England Patriots, you are not allowed at the University of North Carolina. Which is funny, but also kind of embarrassing. Because Bill Belichick, for multiple decades, my guess is made over $200 million working for Robert Kraft. Became an absolute NFL legend, winning Super Bowls, going to Super Bowls, and just kicking the shit out of everybody with Tom Brady. And then it got ugly, and he lost, and he got fired. You know what that's called? Football. Tom Landry got fired, Andy Reid got fired, Pete Carroll's been fired. People get fired. But to ban the New England Patriots is like an FU to Robert Kraft. Guess what Robert Kraft's not doing? Ever making a school call in the history of his life. He's never going to any of these universities collect. It's just some random kid, random guy that works for Elliott Wolf going to the school.
Fascinating. This is a bad look for Bill Belichick. Your thoughts?
Terrible. And first of all, when I think of core Patriot Belichick guys, I think of Brewski, Willie McGinnis, Tom Brady, Matt Light, and Vrabel. I do. I'm actually surprised, and I don't think it was over the top, but I want to put some context on it to be fair to Coach Belichick. When Urban Meyer took over Ohio State, that was the 1 year where Luke Fickell was forced to take over from Jim Tressel with the whole tattoo gate with Terrell Pryor. But that program had been rolling for a good 12 years. And there was a little bit of automatic pilot. There really was. And in that 1 year with Luke Fickell, it was a chaos. I think they went 6-5. But again, the trajectory of North Carolina is not where Ohio State was even in 2012, to be fair. Okay? Now, Jason, isn't one of the great selling points of Belichick and with Mike Lombardi, come to UNC because we're going to groom you for the National Football League. We're going to put you through a National Football League type of camp, the development, the learning, and we're going to open up every avenue for you to go on to the next level and to ban any team. Isn't that a direct hit on that particular agenda?
Certainly, it's short-sighted. It's not wise. But it makes me think, here would be my theory, Steve, that Bill Belichick isn't upset that he got fired in New England. I mean, not super upset. He blames Robert Kraft for his inability to land another coaching job in the National Football League. He thinks Kraft has been running his mouth about what's transpired the last 2 or 3 years with Belichick. Yeah. Maybe Kraft was gossiping about this young girlfriend or whatever, but I think he blames Robert Kraft for not being able to get the next head coaching job in the NFL.
But not him gallivanting publicly with someone that's 1/3 his age. That had nothing to do with it, right? Because I just could not imagine another NFL franchise saying, hey, you know what, that guy right there, the one that's with the girl 50 years younger, that's the one. But Jason, you said something interesting. Bill Belichick must be a worse guy than we all thought. If you listen to members of the Boston or the New England sports media, and I have the Sports Hub 98.5, I was binging their stuff on Tuesday. They will tell you, Jason, he absolutely is, and they're having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, that is the other thing is I do think reputation-wise or things we don't know, weren't privy to, just watching the Patriots from afar, Bill Belichick, not a good guy. And when you look at someone that's dating someone, literally, and I literally had to do the math when you were saying that. It's like, you said 50 years, and it's 49 years. But okay. That's incredible. That's not a good person. That's not, I'm just sorry.
Jason,
yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but I was watching one of the clips on 98.5, the Sports Hub out there in Boston. Gary Myers, a respected NFL journalist who's had kind of a checkered history with Belichick, I guess in a few weeks, a book is coming out that details the conflict, and I think it's called Battle of the Dynasty or Battle for the Dynasty, about the Belichick-Brady dynamic. Trust me, I'm getting that immediately. There should be some interesting reading.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Gary Myers has been in the game for 40, 50 years. He certainly knows what he's talking about. That will be an interesting book. Steve, I'm going to move on to circle back to Michael Irvin. He sat down with Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharpe. They talked about America's Team, the Netflix documentary. The thing I found most interesting is Michael Irvin went into some detail. And again, because I was one of these people that I had no idea this happened. That he had stabbed a teammate and nearly killed a teammate inside the Cowboys facility back during his playing days. But Michael Irvin talked about it with Shannon Sharpe. This is about a 3-minute clip, but I just want to hear Michael out in context and see if you have any reaction to it. Let's play the clip.
And then you say hut, and you tear him. You know, I'm setting him up, him, Larry, all of this. Mm-hmm. And Everett was the new guy. And I'm working, and we messing with Everett. And Big E and the guys, they started messing with him. You can't let that little receiver mess. Dude, I'm like, come on, Everett, stop playing, man. Come on, let's get it. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is the order of this team.
It's with everything.
We have
taping ankles.
Right.
You got the vets getting the ankle.
You have to follow this. Now, come on, we gotta follow this. Right. And everybody, oh man, over here, cause we were trying to get okay. And then Everett, you know, because we had drinks, he get up. Dude, to be truthful, and let people know, I was getting my ass kicked. This big old joker was whooping my butt. I mean, that big boy push, man. I said, hey, man, stop, man. I said, stop, dog, stop. And he did. And I shouldn't have. It's still not an excuse. I should never have grabbed the scissors. But I was in fight or flight mode. You know what I mean? And dude, I went back to my room right after that, and there's blood everywhere. Blood all over me. And Big Cat came in and he said, man, they don't know. You know, they don't know. They say I barely missed an artery, you know. And dude, that was as difficult a thing as ever, because, you know, you're in this kind of frenzy fight thing going on, and then all of a sudden
Once you come down after that, you realize what you've done.
Oh my God! I sat in that room thinking,
Lord, I done killed this
I'm
man.
going to jail. I'm going to jail. They killed this man. And somehow, if he survives, I'm still going to jail. Because the judge just told me, boy, if I see you again, I promise I'm going to give you 25 years. You know, and yeah, Everett talked after that, man. And I shared then, and I'll never forget that. And I thank him again today, and I apologize to him again today on it, you know, because I've been thinking about it lately. Because you watch a documentary, you start thinking about, oh my God. Man.
You relive all those moments all over
those
again.
Moments, man. And I just, man, he said to me, when he said that to me, he said, Michael, you know, he said, I know the severity of what would happen if the truth got out. And he said, man, I don't want to take you away from your kids like you almost took me away from mine, dude. That was. Yeah.
Did you break down?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Because I didn't expect him to do that in my own mind.
Because at that moment,
yeah,
he showed you more grace and mercy than you showed him.
You showed me grace, yeah. And I wouldn't be here without it. I would not have been here. I wouldn't be here without it, you know. So yeah, I tell you, man, I again, I apologize to him a million times, you know.
Oof. Man. I think he circled back to this story because he's figuring out this documentary is a bad look for him. Because the way the story was unpacked, the way Michael Irvin talked about the White House, it was all celebratory. And it was all just something, let's laugh it off. And I think someone, wife, family member, someone at church, someone said, hey, Mike, man, you got to show some contrition. You got to, let's get you on Shannon Sharp's show, somewhere where you can talk about this in a more thoughtful way. And just keep in mind, there's been no bigger supporter, flip-flopper on Michael Irvin than me. I went from killing Michael Irvin for a long time, at the end of his playing career, beginning of his broadcasting career. Then I met Mike and I was like, oh man, this is a sincere person. This is an authentic person. This is someone that has an authentic faith in God. And I've kind of flipped, but this story still troubles me. And the way he unpacked it still troubles me, because this whole thing of I was getting my butt whipped, but then you say, but I told him to stop, and he did stop. And then that's when I stabbed him. This story is crazy. I don't know if Mike has put it to bed or put it in proper perspective even after this interview.
Yeah, and Jason, in terms of his wife, Sandy, she is suffering from Alzheimer's. I don't think it was her. Now, whether he heard the blowback, keep this in mind. He was much more jovial and lighter in talking about the White House than he was about that situation in the documentary, to be fair. He did have a different tone. But as I'm watching that clip, it got me thinking, why wasn't Everett McIver interviewed for that documentary? I mean, that's an incredible thing to say, to have the grace to forgive a guy that nearly ended your life. And those words about you almost took me from my kid, really, it's just like some powerful words. And I do hope, and again, you are a flip-flopper on Michael Irvin. I'm not. I've always liked the guy, but I've understood what he is, and he'll always remain one of my favorite athletes. But I understand he's a flawed man just like us. But I really do hope that he has at least gotten a true sense of contrition and to understand that, hey, your actions, they have consequences. Now, you may not like to hear this, but the White House was tomfoolery, a lot of stuff. It's a lot different than murder. So I just think the tenor of those conversations is going to be different. But yeah, I'm just wondering, I would actually love for us to be able, or you to be able to contact Everett McIver. I find that whole situation from his perspective to be pretty fascinating.
I would imagine a part of Everett McIver's payday included an airtight NDA that does not allow him to talk about this. And who knows, who knows what they're paying Everett McIver. It may not have been a one-time payoff. If I had been nearly killed and like, hey, if I talk, you go to jail, you think I wouldn't sign a lifetime contract of Everett? We're going to 200,000. He's got a Barry Bonds or a Bobby Bonds type deal.
No, Jason, you mean Bobby Bonilla. So Bobby Bonilla every year from the Mets gets a deferred payment for like 2050, and Everett McIver may be getting a check every May 1st of every single year to 2055. Hey, you know what? Silence is golden. Silence can be golden.
Yes. The whole thing, and you're right, and I had forgotten that I just read about his wife and Alzheimer's. But Michael Irvin has kids, a son. He talks about in a different part of this interview with Shannon Sharp. And, you know, just if your son watches that Netflix documentary and it's like, Daddy, you almost killed someone, and you know, we're not seeing any contrition in this documentary. Daddy, you were hanging out at the White House and cokes and drugs and laughing about it. Someone, grandmama, uncle, somebody's like, hey man, you can't let this sit out here. Yeah. You got kids that look up to you, your own kids, other family members. None of this is a laughing matter. And so I see it as Mike trying to clean it up, but it's not. There's still some stuff to be cleaned up. But yeah, I don't think Everett McIver will be talking, because you're right. That could have been a great 15 minutes of that documentary of them in the same room talking about it and talking about why he forgave him. And who knows, maybe they can't be honest about it, because when I think of Everett McIver and why he might have been in the mentality to, beyond the money, beyond whatever they paid him to keep quiet, you know, Everett McIver may come from, you know, a neighborhood that follows gang rules, that, hey, we don't take this to the police, we handle it privately. It could have been that. So anyway, it was fascinating. Steve, I got one last thing that I'm going to be quick about. And this is kind of intentional, because I think this story is complicated and I don't know where it's going to land, but I did want your initial thoughts on Pablo Torre on his podcast, Pablo Finds Out. He's been breaking a lot of interesting news. Yes. People clearly have been feeding him interesting news. Hats off to him. He's building a brand. Good for Pablo Torre. He's got a story that the Steve Ballmer and the Los Angeles Clippers basically funneled, I think, $28 million extra money to Kawhi Leonard through some dummy no-show corporation job, whatever. I think it was a landscaping or a tree company or whatever. Mark Cuban has come out and said, like, nah, man, this company was shiesty. This company, you haven't unpacked this story properly. Cuban and I believe Pablo are going to sit down and talk. How rampant, whether true, untrue, whatever, I do think with these billionaire owners and these salary caps and their competitive fire to want to win, I do think it's pretty rampant, and particularly in this crypto money deal. I think they circumvent the salary cap whenever they feel like it, and I think it's kind of commonplace. I'm not sure if this is the biggest deal or if this should cost Steve Ballmer ownership of the Los Angeles Clippers. Your thoughts?
Well, Jason, so you're telling me that Kawhi Leonard, as an NBA player on the Clippers, that wasn't his only no-show job? That's my initial thoughts, right? Like, we got to get that agent, Jason. I don't know who's representing us or you. We got to get that guy. But yeah, well, Jason, there's a reason why there are rules about circumventing the cap, and it even goes to other sports. I remember years ago when Eddie DeBartolo was the most powerful, effective owner in professional sports, or at least in the NFL with the Niners. They would always look out for him because it seemed like, to me, he had an unfair advantage because he would do anything to win. And so there's been these rules. And Jason, there's a reason why there are these rules, because people break them. And to think that this is the only time it has ever happened would be incredibly naive, if not just downright willfully ignorant. But here's the other thing. This Ballmer's not going to lose his team over this. I mean, Jason, so you're telling me the last Clipper owner lost his team for those reasons that we know about, Donald Sterling, right? So then Steve Ballmer, who's this multi-billionaire, get this, he's going to lose his team because he's paying guys too much. I don't know what's more ridiculous at that point.
You make a great point because it was the NBA PA, it was the players that forced Donald Sterling out. They're going to force Steve Ballmer out for paying him money under the table? Unlikely.
A black player at that. Right, a black player at that.
Unlikely.
I mean, come on. Jeez.
I was talking to a veteran NBA journalist that said, hey, look, there's all kinds of ways to circumvent the cap, particularly when you're talking about, hey, I'm paying a guy $15 million. I'm a billionaire. I can put him into some tech deals. I can put him into some stock deals that I know are coming. There's all kinds of ways for me to get these guys extra money, extra benefits. It's rarely talked about, but someone pointed out to me, like Andre Iguodala and all this money he's made in the tech industry, that was just basically, I think his name's Jacob Lacob or Jacob Lacob. The guy that owns the Golden State Warriors, just putting him in some tech deals on the side, and now Andre Iguodala can run around and call himself the smartest businessman on the planet, and the next Junior Bridgman, whatever. There's just an unlimited amount of ways these guys can funnel extra money to these players, and it's not saying we condone it, but I'm not sure. When I first saw this story, I was like, oh, man, this is a super big deal. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, this is nothing.
Yeah. And if you really want to hurt Ballmer, I don't think you can. I mean, even if you find him $100 million, which I don't think they're going to do, well, that's like me and you finding a $5 bill underneath the sofa cushion, isn't it, for Steve Ballmer?
Steve, thank you so much. Great job as always. We'll see you next time. Guys, before we go, and we're going to get to TJ Moe, and I got some thoughts on Kansas, Missouri. Before we go, I want to talk to you about Kindred Harvest, Fearless Family. Kindred Harvest is a tea that you're going to love. Most of the tea you've been drinking, it's trash. It's loaded with microplastics, heavy metals, and most of it's coming from China. Big Pharma doesn't care. The Chinese tea industry doesn't care. It makes you sick. That's good for them. But Kindred Harvest is different. This is American. It's blended and packed right here in the United States. No microplastics, no toxins, third-party lab tested. Even the tea bags are 100% biodegradable, glue-free, ink-free. It's just clean, all-natural tea. From that first morning cup that gets you moving to caffeine-free tea that helps you wind down at night, even iced tea your kids will love. Kindred Harvest is a tea the way God intended it to be. Pure, honest, healthy. Choose American quality over foreign contamination. Choose Kindred Harvest. Go to kindredharvest.com and use my promo code FEARLESS for 20% off. That's kindredharvest.com, promo code FEARLESS. kindredharvest.com, promo code FEARLESS. Oh, I'm sorry. kindredharvest.co, not com, just .co. And you know what? I'm going to do this read over again after me and TJ Moe. But thank you so much. TJ Moe, next. They have a website on ESPN called Anscape. Everyone thinks it's like, that's a typo. This is a landscaping company. But this is the stupidity of feminism. This is the anger of feminism. This is the anger of black feminism entitlement and the demonization of everything men do. Jason Whitlock, He doesn't hate Trump enough. He's not liberal enough. We must get away from anything he did. He's horrible, he's bad, and we must put a feminine stamp on this. And so they took something wonderful and beautiful and a gift, and they turned it into a landscaping company. And the site hasn't done anything of any relevance for the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And I'm sorry if that upsets people. That's not me being petty. That's not me trying to diminish the people there that are trying to do some level of work, but the place sucks. And everybody knows it. All right, welcome back. I want to redo this Kindred Harvest, a live read. And I'm drinking it right now. It is fantastic. But I screwed up because I'm looking at the .co and I'm thinking, well, this has got to be a typo. It's got to be .com. It's not. It's kindredharvest.co. Just C-O. Use my promo code FEARLESS for 20% off. This tea is amazing. Tiffany's turned me into a tea and coffee person. I drink it every day here at work. Kindred tea is made right here. It's not made in China. Doesn't have the microplastics, doesn't have the heavy metals. It's healthy stuff. It's the way God intended tea to be. I'm enjoying it. I want you to enjoy it. Go to kindredharvest.co. That's .co. Use my promo code FEARLESS for 20% off. That's kindredharvest.co. Promo code FEARLESS. Kindred Harvest, cultivating goodness daily. TJ Moe, I think, is here with me. And TJ, bring TJ up on camera, and then we're going to take him off camera because I got to get some things off my chest as it relates to the Kansas-Missouri rivalry, the border war that is back. I know this probably to some of you is like, what is Whitlock doing? You know, Kansas, Missouri, neither Kansas is okay this year. Missouri football isn't that great. Why are you making such a big deal? Because this is a big deal. TJ, I contend, and I'm about to argue, and we'll take you off camera, but I contend Kansas, Missouri, the border war, is the most passionate, most deeply rooted, most important rivalry in all of sports. And I don't just mean college sports. In all of sports, I know I'm asking a biased person. TJ played football at Mizzou, but am I crazy?
No, I mean, look, history backs you up. You're about to unpack it all, but it is, you'll have to find me another rivalry in all of sports that you have family members who killed each other playing on opposite sides, because that's what this is. It is truly, it stems from pre-Civil War, on the lead up to the Civil War. The hundreds of people were killed in skirmishes trying to preserve slavery and trying to abolish slavery and such. And so, yeah, it runs pretty deep. I mean, and you got, look, I'm in St. Louis, and so St. Louis was a little more union friendly during that time. We don't quite have it, but my roommate Andrew Wilson was a Kansas City guy. And I mean, we were flying the flag of Quantrell over our TV in our living room in 2010. And so it runs pretty deep.
It's an amazing rivalry, and thank you, TJ, and we'll circle back to TJ here in a minute. But listen, I moved to Kansas City in 1994, and I grew up in Indiana, spent most of my life in Indianapolis, grew up on Indiana and Purdue. And in football, it was the old Oaken Bucket, and in basketball, it was Gene Cady versus Bobby Knight, and I thought that was a tremendous rivalry. And then as a sports writer, I moved to Kansas City. And Kansas City sits right on the border of Missouri and Kansas. And then a lot of people are like, do you live in Kansas City, Kansas? No, I live in Kansas City, Missouri. And at one time I did live in Kansas City, Missouri, and then I moved over to the Kansas side. I lived in Overland Park, Kansas. And this rivalry was everything to that city. And so maybe that blurs my perception, of it because I was right on the border. And maybe the people, I'm sure there's people, Ohio State, Michigan, that are sitting there and saying, you ever lived in Toledo? Because Toledo sits right on the border of Ohio and Michigan. And a lot of people in Toledo, Ohio are Michigan fans. Obviously, there are a lot of Ohio State fans in Toledo. Maybe in Toledo, it feels the same as living in Kansas City when you're going through the Kansas-Missouri rivalry. But what's not the same, and when you look at all these other rivalries, if you look at Duke, North Carolina, they're not tied to the most significant event in American history, the Civil War. And the Civil War is the most significant event, other than the Revolutionary War, but is the most significant event in American history. We went to war with each other over slavery, over states' rights, over all of that. And these two states, Kansas and Missouri, were killing each other. William Quantrill, that they're talking, that TJ just mentioned, had these, the Quantrill Raiders, I believe they were called. They went into Lawrence, Kansas, the free state, the free city of Lawrence, Kansas, and they killed like 170 men and young boys. And I believe this is in the early 1860s. This is before the Civil War officially kicked off, I believe. I think it's 1861 when, or I believe it's 1861, because I'm doing it. I studied up on this the last couple of days. I'm doing this off memory. I'm doing this kind of off emotions because for some reason, I'm telling you, I'm emotional about this rivalry and the fact that they ended this thing in 2011. When you hear me talk about pay fans respect, when you hear me talk about how fans have been put on the back burner in all the sports and everything is about money, 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 money. What can make us the most money? And screw what's best for fans. And I'm like, this is crazy. Sports have always been about the competitors and the fans have always played kind of an equal role. And now everything is on a back burner for money. And so I get why Missouri moved to the SEC. It's a better conference. It's better for them. But I was amazed. You can't figure out a way to keep this rivalry, the border war. You can't figure out a way to reward both of your fan bases with one of the longest running, most passionate rivalries in all of sports. And I contend it is the greatest rivalry in all of sports because of the deep history, because of the bloodshed between Kansas and Missouri people. It's connected to something real. Because best I could tell, looking up Ohio State and Michigan, that was some sort of land dispute that I think went on close to Toledo. This was about what type of nation we were going to have. This was about people avenging the slaughter of 170 boys and men. Kids, boys were killed. This was biblical, like we're killing children over this dispute about slavery and states' rights. And William Quantrill is like his marauders, his gang of raiders, the 400 guys that went around slaughtering people, like Frank and Jesse James were influenced by William Quantrill. This is all connected to like real American history. And then when you live in Kansas City and you start seeing this deal play out and you start looking at the fan bases, and there were stereotypes that applied, like Missouri, a typical Missouri fan. And this is even when I was there, obviously this is before Trump politics. But if you had to stereotype them, it's a bunch of working class, beer drinking Trump supporters. MAGA before MAGA. That's your typical Missouri fan. Probably back then and initially probably some sort of Democratic voter. But now they would be MAGA guys all with Trump. And the people over in Kansas were snobby, elitist, Probably, when I was there, hardcore, probably Republican. This is how you would stereotype the fans. They hated each other. And so the way Democrats and Republicans hate each other now, or the way Democrats and the establishment, hates Donald Trump and MAGA. That's what you had going on in this sports rivalry. And there were magnificent moments that I covered as a journalist, participated in as a sports talk radio host. In 1997, this is a basketball example, but in 1997, Roy Williams is the coach at Kansas and Norm Stewart is the coach at Missouri. And Kansas starts out with Jock Vaughn, Scott Pollard, Rafe LaFrance, Paul Pierce, Jared Haas, Ryan Robertson, who am I forgetting? Just a whole list of guys that played a long time in the NBA, had a cup of coffee in the NBA. They were the #1 ranked team in the country. They're 22-0. They go to Missouri and take on Norm Stewart's team that had a bunch of nobodies that were 11-10. Jason Sutherland, Derek Grimm, Corey Tate, Kelly Thames, a bunch of no names. You've never heard of any of these guys. They weren't that good. They host this undefeated team at the Hearn Center. This Corey Tate, the game goes double overtime. Jock Vaughn steals the ball at the end of the game, and he's about to ice the game, and Corey Tate steals it back for him, or steals the loose ball back, and knocks down a two-pointer, and Missouri wins the game 96-94 in double overtime. It's the greatest college basketball game I had ever seen. Anybody that was there will vouch for the emotion, the energy, the disbelief. This Kansas team is it's the greatest Kansas basketball team ever assembled, in my opinion. And I know Kansas had teams that won national championships. But I think this team was called Jock and the Beanstalks. A bunch of All-Americans. They were like America's team. All these good guys and these hard-working, underachiever, 3-star recruits from Missouri knock off a bunch of pros at the Hearn Center in Columbia, Missouri. And when you go through experiences like that, and then you turn around 10 years later, and from out of nowhere, 2 horrible football programs end up with 2 amazing coaches, Gary Pinkel at Missouri and Mark Mangino at Kansas. And somehow 2 bad football programs are at the top of the food chart. Kansas goes into this game. They're playing this game at Arrowhead Stadium. Kansas is #2 in the country, and I believe Missouri is #3 in the country when they met in 2007. Missouri has a quarterback, Chase Daniel, who's on TV, had a long career in the NFL as a backup quarterback. Kansas had this little quarterback named Todd Reese. He's probably selling insurance somewhere. Missouri wins the game 36-28. They're ranked #1 in the country the next week. Kansas was undefeated going into the game. Missouri, I think, had lost to Oklahoma earlier that year. 80,000 people, incredible game. And again, I say I got a bias here because I gave this game the nickname Armageddon at Arrowhead, and it stuck, and everybody just calls it Armageddon. And so I'm a little bit biased because in the greatest football game in the Kansas-Missouri history, I gave it the nickname that still lives on to this day, Armageddon. And so maybe that's part of my bias, but I'm telling you, I lived these experiences. I participated in what I believe is the greatest rivalry in all of sports, and it just the historical depth to it and just what it meant to sports fans. And somehow we got to a place where this rivalry disappeared over money, over Missouri joining the SEC, over these schools not being able to figure out a way how to keep this going for the fans. And so I'm thrilled that they're playing this year, and I think they're playing again next year, or maybe it's the next 3 years, counting this year. And then it's going to take some time off again and come back. But this is my problem with sports. You know, they just keep taking away things that make it special because, oh, there's more money in it. And it drives me crazy. Nothing is about the fans. Nothing. And so I'm when I talk about excitement, you know, the NFL starting tonight, you got the Chiefs and the Chargers on Friday, and on Saturday, Kansas and Missouri are playing football again. The hatred, the passion between Kansas and Missouri. I think about Stephen St. John, host of a radio show in Kansas City, hardcore Missouri fan. The owner of that radio station, a guy named Chad Boger, hardcore Kansas fan. This is one I'm going to end on this sort of funny point, and maybe I'll bring TJ into this, although TJ's probably not the greatest expert on this. This is one of the few rivalries, because when I think about Indiana and Purdue, and this is factual, anybody that's ever followed Indiana Purdue knows, like, all the beautiful women go to Indiana University. And it's a doo-doo show at Purdue. I mean, the women are there for academic reasons. They're not looking, or they probably are looking for husbands, but it's just terrible. I lived in Bloomington for a while, but I visited both campuses several times when I was younger, and it was incredible. Like, so many just beautiful women at Indiana University, and sorry to say it, but just unattractive women at Purdue with great SAT scores. It's amazing. Kansas and Missouri, beautiful women on both sides. It's a rare rivalry where the women on both sides look that good. That's the last thing I'll say about that, and I'll get myself, because I could start naming names but I'm not going to. I don't want to get myself in trouble. TJ, have I forgotten anything about the greatness of this rivalry?
I mean, you could just go down the line. Guys like you and I who lived it and have been immersed in it can talk about the Marcus Denman last-second three to win the game. I think it was 2011 to knock down Kansas, one of the final games, maybe it was 2012, final games against Kansas. And I can't remember now if that was to win the final Big 12 championship or not, which Mizzou did in that tournament. But, yeah, I mean, you can go on forever. I played in 3 of those games. One interesting thing that Tommy Saunders, who I know you knew, was one of my mentors at Missouri. Yeah. He was a walk-on kid who earned a scholarship, ended up being a really good player. And he taught me virtually everything I knew about playing receiver, which is why I ran like a 4.8 40, because he taught me that too. But beyond that, we were talking early, and he said something like, and I don't even remember what his record now is. He said, like, you know, my record's 3-1. And I'm like, what does that mean? He said, everybody's here has a record. And I don't know what the record is for all the games that we played, but I know my record against Kansas was 3-0. And that was something everybody talked about. Like, what's your record? And because you got 4 shots at him.
It's funny you mentioned the records, because that's another thing about this rivalry. They can't even agree on what the record is in football between the two schools.
Yes.
There was a game in 1960 that I think Missouri won, and then you lost.
We lost.
And
Dan Devine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dan Devine, it was Missouri's best season ever. Would be and could be and perhaps should be, since Auburn just claimed like 4 more national championships. Missouri's one national championship in history. It was the year we won the Orange Bowl, 1960, under Dan Devine. We were going for an undefeated season and lost to Kansas. It was the only loss of the year. Turns out Kansas had 2 ineligible players, so the NCAA has retroactively awarded that to Missouri. And so we claim that as a victory. They claim that as a victory because they say, look what happened on the field. Don't tell us about our ineligible players. So you're exactly right. We don't agree on much of anything. The other interesting thing is, and I wonder if this is still the same way with all the NIL stuff. And like, if you play at a school like Mizzou's quarterback this year is a transfer from Penn State, Bo Prabula, I think his name is, who had a great first game. But it's like, how invested is he in this rivalry? That is something that frustrating to your point, it's very frustrating to me. Very few of these guys grow up. I grew up in St. Louis. I was actually born in Indiana, but about 6 months into my life, moved to St. Louis, have been here my entire life, was very, very invested in this. From the start, couldn't wait to represent my home state. I had other offers, not great ones, but I had other offers. Kansas was one of them to go play football. Kansas, Wake Forest, could have gone to Wisconsin. Wisconsin was winning Rose Bowls during those years that I was playing there, at least playing in the games. And I just couldn't wait to be a Missouri Tiger. It didn't make sense to me to wear anything else on my chest. And I was invested in my college teammates were invested. Even the kids from Texas, like I had a college roommate from Texas, like by year 4, they were seriously invested. But these guys who are playing it's their second game. They've been here for 6 months because they transferred in the spring. It's disappointing. It doesn't, I hope they feel the fire because the fans do. I mean, what I'm seeing right now on, some of the message boards and all over Twitter. I mean, Missouri Twitter is just on fire this week. And people feel like it's 2007 again. And that game, I don't know. I mean, obviously you gave it the nickname, which I didn't know that until this morning, but I've called it Armageddon, thanks to you, for the last 15 years. And it was crazy. It was all anybody talked about. It's actually the only time in St. Louis, the Cardinals sort of reign supreme, where everybody talks about how the Cardinals are doing, and they won a lot of World Series and all different stuff. But it's like Kansas, Missouri is actually the only time in St. Louis where it overtakes all the professional sports. People really seriously care in a big way.
You made the great point about from the transfer portal and as it relates to football, but even in this era now where in basketball, everybody good leaves after 1 year and they have the transfer portal issue. So take someone like me that played at Ball State and you don't follow the Mid-American Conference when you're a high school football player because everybody in the Midwest, I want to go to the Big Ten and I'm good enough to go to the Big Ten. And so I get to Ball State and our coach is Paul Shadell, and he understands the rivalry between Ball State and Miami of Ohio. And it wasn't until the 3rd or 4th year that I actually cared about Miami of Ohio. Or even Indiana State, which was another rival. I didn't care until my 3rd or 4th year. You get immersed in it. You've played against them and you got some memory of a player that you don't like over there or whatever. And it's like, for the players, it will never be what it used to be for the former players, but for the fans. And again, this is my entire complaint about what we've done to sports. We've de-emphasized what's best for the fans. It's like fans, they don't matter at all. They're either reviled and an annoyance, or they just don't matter. Who cares whether this is enjoyable for them? Taking this, and so as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm not sure with the way the transfer portal works, it's never going to be the same for the players. It's like Ohio State and Michigan probably hold on to more of their players, lose less players through the transfer portal. And so it'll probably be easier for them to hold on to that in football. And because the Kansas-Missouri thing has kind of ended, Ohio State and Michigan now are the king of rivalries. But I just wonder if, young people are just not even going to know that this era, this time existed when sports mattered that much to college fans. Or to the schools. I don't know. I honestly, thinking about it, it's the heyday of my journalism career. I have so many friends that either went to Kansas or Missouri. It makes me very nostalgic about being a fan when I think about Kansas and Missouri, that I literally, yesterday and today, I was halfway emotional. It just brings back so many fond memories for me. Mm-hmm. And to think that, we're going to get a couple, 2 or 3 years of this, but not something set in stone. I don't, do you understand why? Because I don't remember, I don't even fully understand. Why weren't they able to salvage this? Why weren't they able to schedule this once a year as a non-conference opponent? What happened there?
Easily could have. Missouri tried to. Kansas said, hey, if you're going to abandon us in our conference and leave the Big 12 here to die, then we're not going to engage with you anymore. And so that is how that. Bill Self was one of the guys who actually led that revolt. He had a big say-so in that. And so Missouri did try. And look, I mean, the Big 12, I thought it was going to die. It's actually a miracle in my view that the Pac-12 died before the Big 12. The Big 12, since I played in it, 2010 was the last year of everybody. Nebraska left, Colorado left, and has now come back. Texas A&M, Missouri, Texas, and Oklahoma. Like, that was the league. You're left with Kansas, Kansas State, Baylor, Iowa State. Like, there's not a whole lot there. And so I can see why you're upset. It is a shame though, because it was the second longest running rivalry in history. It went 120 straight years. I think we started playing in 1891. Last game was in 2011, again, that I played in. And so, it's, I think, who was it? Minnesota and Wisconsin played like one more year. Okay, so it's been going on forever. And we actually knew the history. This is one of the things, too, that frustrates me. We knew growing up, because Missouri's roster, it's like we supplemented a lot with Texas. But you think about the best players from Missouri over the years, from Mizzou, they're from Missouri, Justin Smith, Jefferson City boy, Jeremy Macklin, Kirkwood. Like you can go down the list and you're like, most of these guys grew up here and actually knew the history, know what happened in 1855 and that the Kansas-Nebraska act. They were trying to figure out if they were coming in as a free state or a slave state. And so Missouri was losing their slaves as they were going over the border. And this is before the Dred Scott decision. And so at that time, people didn't know if you could just run away and they could have. So 1855, Missouri goes over there and stuffs all the ballots to try to make it a slave state. And, well, they get upset. The Jayhawkers come back. And I always forget the name. I wrote it down. Ocala, Missouri. A bunch of the Jayhawkers came over and actually burned it to the ground, burned over 800 buildings, killed 9 people. The city has never recovered. Okay, and so that's when William Quantrell goes back over and says, you're not going to come over here into our spot and kill our people. So goes over there and kills 170 people and burns Lawrence, Kansas, where they're actually located, to the ground. We knew all that, right? And, you even know some of the ironies. One of the ironies is that the Missouri Tigers are named after a Union regime. It was a Union part, because Missouri was a split state. Missouri, this is an interesting thing for all the idiots who just claim that Missouri is all about slavery and, we should hate our past and all that. Missouri provided 100,000 soldiers to the Union Army. And remember, we never actually seceded. And so we had a shadow government that developed, and we sent 40,000 troops down to the Confederacy. We had 100,000. 5 times, by the way, more than Kansas sent. Kansas only sent 20,000 Union troops, and they were a free state. Us, supposed to be the big bad Missouri Tigers, sent 100. And so, that is part of the irony. Missouri itself was actually on the Missouri Tigers was a group that was protecting Columbia from the Confederates. So the Missouri Tigers were on the same side as the Jayhawkers. There's some of the irony there. But you learn all that stuff, right? And you actually learn a lot of that spills over where you lived from the Kansas City guys. And I had a good understanding, and then I had a great understanding. When I started living with the Kansas guy, who started showing me the text messages from all of his friends at Raymore Peculiar High School and the stuff they were talking about in Kansas Week. You really start to get it. I hope that flows over, because the last point I'll make is one that you make. The most frustrated thing I get as a fan is when I don't think the players care as much as I do as a fan. And that is my worry here as we go into the transfer portal and everything that's going, that I hope these players care about this rivalry as much as I do as a former player and as much as all the fans do.
That bit of history that you unpacked about Missouri's dual loyalty and never seceding is part of what people don't understand. And I didn't understand when I first got there and then had to get educated. Like, man, if you're black, why would you be a Missouri Tiger fan? And then people would, go into the detailed history and like, hey, it's a little deeper than that. And so this whole thing, just even thinking about it, the first person I think about is Norm Stewart, and I think about the basketball aspect of it, even though this is a football game we're playing this weekend, is because he so embodied this rivalry, wouldn't stay in Kansas, would get a hotel in Kansas City rather than to go into Kansas. legitimately disliked Kansas. I wasn't around during Don Fambro, the legendary Kansas football coach, but this guy couldn't stand Missouri. And so what ended up happening, particularly from a football aspect, Mark Mangino, this 400-pound football coach who was brutal to his players and raised up this football program, and then just how contrast him to Gary Pinkel, 205 pounds, clean cut, good looking guy, everything, by the book. They were such polar opposites, but they both did the exact same thing. Built up these great football teams from nothing, and then it all leads to this Armageddon at Arrowhead. And I'm so glad it's back. I'm hoping it's back the way that I remember it. I'm just like you. I hope the players. I watched. You remember the Kansas safety? I think his name Darryl Stuckey.
Yes.
Played in the NFL for about 7 years. Holy cow! Did he have a good day? It's one of the. Holy cow! Did he have a day? A safety. Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed never had a day as good as he had against the Missouri Tigers. Anyway,
they had real players, Jason. They had two starting NFL safeties on that 2007 team. Harris, who started for the Denver Broncos, and Aqib Talib. I mean, that 2007. I have no idea how they did it.
Those are corners. Those are corners. You call them safeties.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Aqib Talib and Chris Harris. Yeah, they were
an unbelievable pair.
Two guys with Hall of Fame cases. They're not Hall of Fame players, but you could put together Hall of Fame arguments for them. This Mark Mangino was the greatest recruiter, had the great that I've ever seen. That he was finding 3-star guys that and next thing you know they're 5-star guys and with Aqib Talib, he clearly Chris Harris and Aqib Talib are polar opposites, but great players. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, you could argue each of them for some years in the NFL were top 5, top 3 NFL corners. I mean, Aqib Talib was the best corner in the league for a couple of years in New England. And so those guys, that 2007 team, it's not Alabama, LSU, and whatever year that was, 2012 or whatever the year they played for the national championship. But you go down the list, and a lot of these guys you never heard of. I've rewatched a lot of that preparing for this segment. Do you remember Dylan Briscoe? The guy in 2009, they lost that game.
The receiver. Was he a receiver?
He was a receiver, yes. He had 15 catches and 250 yards receiving in 2009. 250 yards receiving. Holy cow. That's what a quarterback. Todd Reesing threw for 498 yards. I mean, I played in that. That's when I may be the only Kansas game in history that actually ended on the last play. We were losing, and I mean, I don't think I played in the game, maybe some special teams, but back and forth. Denario Alexander. It was basically Denario versus the entire Kansas team, and that's the stuff that you talk about. Even when both teams are, and I think Kansas that year went like 3-9. They were awful. Okay, but it was like if they would have played like that, they would have won 9 games because we had a decent team. I think we went 8-5 that year or whatever. They played out of their mind. That's the stuff you do in rivalries. It's like your entire season can be blown. This is why you need rivalries. You can have the worst season ever. Nobody cares about anything. And then suddenly rivalry week, everybody shows up and plays like they're a 5-star. How did that happen? And it happens over and over again. That was 2009 Kansas. They had totally winless in the Big 12, went like 3-9. They beat a couple, directional schools that they paid $1 million to come in and get their face beat. And that's all they could beat the whole year until they showed up and played Missouri and they threw for 500 yards. That's the fun of rivalries.
And to those of you that are sitting there like, why is Whitlock talking about this? And why is Whitlock enjoying this so much? That may have been the epitome of my sports writing career. That may have been the epitome of just me being a sports fan, just enjoy, and I didn't even have to choose a side, although I probably most people would say I leaned Kansas more than I did Missouri, probably accurate. I was more successful with the ladies at Kansas than I was at Missouri, so I did lean that way. There's no question about it, but anyway, I'm just like, for me, I could talk about Kansas, Missouri, every day, and we used to do it. And Stephen St. John and those guys, I think, still do it on Sports Radio 810. Just taking me down memory lane. And we went on with this much longer than I anticipated. I apologize for that. I want to get to as the WNBA turns. Next.
And as a dad, we all want our kids to succeed. When you're a man, and Jason, you don't have children, and I have one son, 3 daughters, 1 son, and I truly believe fathers, there's only one person walking this earth that I want to be better than me. And I wholeheartedly hope that happens, and that's my son. Like, I want others to do well. Do we want people to be better and do better than us? No, we don't. We always say we do. No, you don't. But my son, man, I hope you're better than me in every facet of life. And that's what Prime wants for his kids. So I don't fault him for doing and saying certain things, because when you have children, you want everything for them and you want them to be better than you.
As the WNBA turns, starring Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Asia Wilson. Brought to you by George Soros, Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, and the Global Elite.
All right, welcome back. Time for a little As the WNBA Turns, featuring Angel Reese, my favorite person to talk about other than Caitlin Clark. Let's start with, can we pull up the quotes that she gave to the Chicago Tribune that started all this mess? I've been telling you all that Angel Reese wants out of Chicago. She's a front runner. She's going to, I said this very early in this season, she's going to be looking to exit the Chicago Sky. The going has gotten tough. And when the going gets tough, Angel Reese gets going, just ask Maryland. But let me just start with some of her quotes that have ignited the internet and got a lot of people talking about what her intentions are. She told the Chicago Tribune, "I'm not settling for the same SHIT we did this year. We have to get good players. We have to get great players. That's a non-negotiable for me. I'm willing and wanting to play with the best. And however I can help to get the best here, that's what I'm going to do this offseason. So it's going to be very, very important this offseason to make sure we attract the best of the best, because we can't settle for what we have this year. I am very vocal about what we need and what I want. I'd like to be here for my career, but if things don't pan out, obviously, I might have to move in a different direction and do what's best for me. But while I'm here, I'm going to try to stay open-minded about what I have here and maximize that as much as I can." That's Angel Reese, thinking she's LeBron James, thinking that she's, Kevin Durant, thinking she's James Harden, thinking that, after 2 seasons in the WNBA, she's some sort of commodity that has to be surrounded by the best and greatest players. That's Angel Reese and her delusion that we should not be surprised by, because the way she's talked about, the way she's discussed, the way that Ryan Clark and all these other people cape up for Angel Reese and pretend like she's the greatest thing since sliced bread, she's leaned into her delusion. She wants everybody out of here. Do we have the quote where she talked about the Vandersloot? They had traded this year for a point guard that I think had won 2 titles, had been an all-star. I don't need it. I don't need the quote, but the woman's name is, I think, Courtney Vandersloot. She got injured very early in the season. She's like 35, 36, and Angel Reese basically said, hey, look, we can't count on her next year. At her age, coming off that injury, we need someone younger who's ready to win right now, something like that. She just drove a bus over this Vandersloot. Well, people in Chicago, her teammates, read the quotes, saw the newspaper article, and were very upset. And they had a meeting yesterday where Angel Reese had to apologize and start backpedaling. And then I think this is from Front Office Sports reporting about Angel Reese and the reaction and the fallout in Chicago. Angel Reese's motor, rebounding, and defense have been heralded by executives and coaches across the league. But multiple league sources told Front Office Sports their view is that some franchises will weigh her skills on the court against her conduct off of it. Fascinating. They're talking about her conduct off it. What are they talking about? They're talking about a woman that disappeared for 3 weeks with a mysterious back injury. Remember when I was talking like Angel Reese, this absence doesn't make sense, this whole back deal, and she can't play for 3 weeks. They're telling you, they're giving you an indication of like, hey man, it doesn't add up to us either. It doesn't add up to the Chicago Sky. Angel Reese is throwing a tantrum and disappeared on the Chicago Sky, or took a mental health break, or pretended a back injury. And I'm just telling you, go look at the history of Angel Reese. I'm going to play for my home state team in Maryland. I'm going to do it for Maryland, y'all. Going got tough. Angel got going. I'm going to transfer to LSU and play for Kim Mulkey and a super team and snatch me a ring and troll Caitlin Clark. What happened the next year after winning that championship? Angel Reese, the start of that season, in Kim Mulkey's doghouse, suspended or something went on at the beginning of that season. They don't repeat as national champions. This is Angel Reese. She is a headache. And I know factually, no one enjoys playing with her. This other part of the Chicago Tribune article, not a direct quote from Angel Reese, but an insinuation that Angel Reese is like, hey man, this Rachel Bannum and Haley Van Leith, they're garbage and need to be up out of here. Not a direct quote, but that's basically what she inferred to the writer, like they're not good enough, they gotta go. If you remember, Haley Van Leith in college was at LSU with Angel Reese, had a mental breakdown and transferred to TCU, playing alongside Angel Reese. None of this is a secret. Angel Reese is a nightmare to play with and play for, but Angel Reese has a destination in mind. Angel Reese wants out of Chicago and wants to go play for the Dallas Wings. She wants to go play with Paige Beckers, who's going to be the Rookie of the Year, and Dallas will be in position. They got like a 40-50% chance of getting the #1 overall pick, and they can pick up Paige Reese's bottom chick, her girlfriend, former teammate, Azzi Fudd, who everybody believes is a big-time transformational player. That's where, and it sounds like Angel Reese wants to go to the worst team in the WNBA. Yes, she does. She wants to go there because she thinks with her and Paige Becker and Azzi Fudd, they can build a young super team. She can do what Caitlin Clark did at the Indiana Fever. Lift up a bottom feeder into a championship caliber team. I want to play you a clip from, let's play SOT number 10. This is Azzi Fudd, not Fuzz, I hope you guys, Fudd, and Paige Beckers talking about Angel Reese. Play the clip.
Angel Reese talk about her game. In AAU, we played against her. Even back then, like, she was a rebounding machine, like always crashing the board. She's always been tall and long. It's been really cool, and also from the DMV, like to see her progress her game and play and kind of have the role that she has now with women's basketball.
But she's just ultra competitive. You can tell, like when you're her teammate, she just instills this confidence within you and like makes you believe in yourself even more than you already do. But she's definitely like the type of player that you would love to have on your team.
Paige Becker, Azzy Fudd, Angel Reese, they're all talking amongst themselves. She wants to go to Dallas. I want to play you this other clip from Angel Reese yesterday after getting called out by her teammates and having to apologize to her teammates. Of course, Angel Reese blamed the media and fans, probably Caitlin Clark fans, for taking her comments out of context. Let's play SOT number 9.
Are you frustrated with the organization or frustrated in general?
I don't think I'm frustrated. I probably am frustrated myself right now. I think the language is taken out of context, and I really didn't intentionally mean to put down my teammates because they've been through this with me throughout the whole year. They've busted their ass just how I busted my ass. They showed up for me through thick and thin and in the locker room when nobody could see anything. So I would apologize to my teammates, which I already have, about the article and how it was misconstrued, about what was said. And I just have to be better with my language because I know it's not the message, it's the messenger, and understanding what I say can be taken any kind of way. So I just have to really be better and grow from this.
It's not the message, it's the messenger. No, I think the problem was the message and the messenger. That's what the problem was. No one misconstrued what you said. You said, I'm not putting up with this SHIT next year. No one's misconstruing that. You just called what you did this year SHIT and said, I'm willing and wanting to play with the best players. So that's you saying, I'm not playing with the best players right now. The article also went on to say that you said to the writer, that there's only 2 untouchable players on the team, you and Carmela Cardosa, and everybody else can skedaddle. This isn't being taken out of context. This is you trashing people. This is you talking about Vandersloot. Reese questioned how Vandersloot will return to form at the age she's at after she tore her ACL 7 games into the season. Reese went on to say, we need someone probably a little younger, with some experience, somebody who's been playing the game and is willing to compete for a championship and has done it before. No one's misconstruing that. Your teammates aren't. You're not being taken out of context. You're making excuses because you ran off at the mouth and just proved everybody right. You're not a loyal teammate. There's a reason why. You guys help me out here. Am I correct? Her and Flau'jae Johnson, the rapper, basketball player at LSU, they don't get along. This is Angel Reese's history. No one gets along with Angel Reese for long. She has a 2-year expiration date. She's like fish. It goes bad after a couple of days. She's like house guests. They go bad after a couple of days. 2 years, Angel Reese starts stinking up the joint with her toxic mentality. Period. End of story. Last thing I want to add on here. Last night, Angel Reese picks up her 8th technical foul. I believe it was intentional. She took a swing at a woman for no reason, picking up that 8th technical foul, and guess what? Now she's suspended, and guess who she doesn't have to play? Is it Friday or Saturday night? I can't remember. I got to double check. I think it's Saturday night. She don't have to play the Indiana Fever. Got a great opportunity to end the season on a high note against the Indiana Fever, and she just found a way to duck the game. I gave Angel Reese credit yesterday for figuring out a way to be an effective basketball player. I gave her credit yesterday. She'll do anything for herself. She's figured out a way to keep her brand alive and to score some buckets and shoot a better percentage. But doing anything for a team, that's not a part of Angel Reese's DNA. Angel Reese, me bounds. Me. That's who Angel Reese is. Thank you for tuning in today. That's As the WNBA Turns. We'll play tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, no deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I just want.